Hello and welcome to Cup of Tea with Geo and Gonzo. It's officially episode 2, but we've been doing it for about a year now, and I'm afraid you're going to be getting plenty more as a transfer window is just around the corner, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Well, before we get started, Gonzo, how's your cup of tea?
It's okay. It could have been brewed for longer, if I'm honest, but we were on a tight 8:30 schedule, so I've got it and I'm ready to go, mate.
How do you take your tea, just out of interest?
It's very dark. You're not going to be able to see it on the camera. Can you see it? I don't want to spill it on the laptop. It's quite dark, very strong, mate, with 2 sugars, to be honest. Builder's tea.
I'm the same, but without the sugar. Real man, no sugar in there, just a little dash of milk. But let's get straight in about the transfers. Tonight we're going to be talking about the right back, we're going to be talking about the striker, we're going to be giving who we want to see for those positions. We will also be discussing some of the rumours and gossip. So players have been linked to us left, right and centre already. There's about 100 players. I really wanted to go through all the media this last month. I could have come up with a list of 100, but I've got 4 or 5 down here which we'll discuss. But let's talk about the right back first of all. Arguably, is this for you the main position we need to strengthen?
We've needed to strengthen that position and the striking position since last season, and the fact that it hasn't really been addressed is a little bit bordering on negligence, maybe a little bit on, I don't know, probably believing a little bit too much in Antonio being able to play in that position, and Nordveit being able to cover that position, and possibly even Byram being able to sort of grow into that position, which he may or may not do. Then obviously there was a panic buy, which has not worked out, which was pretty close to deadline day below, wasn't it? So yes, it needs addressing. It is a priority really, and we certainly need to be looking at that.
Before the show last night, actually, I texted Gonzo. I said, I want your ideal, your loan, and your bargain for right back and striker. So hopefully he's done his research. I don't know who he's got. He doesn't know who I've got. So we'll come up with the same. We haven't just conspired and thought, well, we'll just be bored and come up with the same one. So let's start with your right back, your ideal right back. If when we say ideal, we mean someone we think West Ham could attract and within a reasonable budget that our board might have if they actually open their purse for once. But who's got for your ideal right back?
Well, just before I do, and I'm glad you said that because we've not spoken since you texted me last night. So, what did you say? What did you say in your text? You said you wanted an ideal one, a sort of loan one, and a bargain one, and that was basically what you asked for. Now, when I thought of that, I started thinking about ideal ones. I started thinking about budget. And just before I go on to name them, because we're obviously going to do the same for the striker, I think it's really, really important I make one thing clear about West Ham, and it sort of goes more towards our strategy. Because what we did in the summer was we bought for a European campaign. And when I was looking at the team against Hull, I didn't really see an awful lot aside from last year's team. And it really struck me. And I thought, you know what? Any one player that improves that first team is going to be good. I don't really want to see guys that had the squad out a bit. I know a lot of people think we probably do have a better squad than last season. I don't think that's what we need. What we need to do is significantly improve the first team. So, for instance, if you were going to go and buy Aaron, if we didn't have Aaron Cresswell and you went and bought him now, you think, okay, that's our best left back, bang. He goes into the team regardless of anybody else. And I think we need to buy a player. Now, if what I'm saying is, if say our budget is 30 million, I don't want to see us bring in 3 players for 10 million. I would much rather say, okay, the right back is our priority or the striker is our priority. We spend all the money there. And if we need to bring in a loan or whatever to cover the other position, we'll do that. But I just think that one good player that strengthens and betters our first team would be the way I would go. So with that in mind, if we were to choose the right back, then we couldn't afford the striker. And if we were to choose a striker, we couldn't afford the right back. So I guess that's why you asked the question of a sort of reserve and a loanee. So my premium choice speciality right back is a guy that's just come back from injury. And he's actually played predominantly in central midfield of late, but he started his career as a right back. He's a very good right back. I think he's possibly got the potential to be the best right back in the world. And that's a guy called Alessandro Florenzi, who's at Roma.
Like, I can't say I know who this guy is. You've been on the FIFA, so what's his attributes, etc. What do you know about him? I don't know.
I don't know if he's any good on FIFA. But I'll make sure my son does sign him, and we'll have a go. He's got everything. He seems to be the modern all-round player. He is. He's fast. He's skillful. He's adaptable. Not in many respects. He's sort of everything that Phil Jones should have become, but never quite did. And you can add some technique to that as well. He's fast, powerful, gets up and down really, really well. And I was looking at him last night as well. After we spoke, I knew of him from a little while before. And I started looking at his videos last night, and I thought, crikey, this guy really is good. Now, he's been coveted by quite a lot of the top teams, but bearing in mind the financial position that everybody bar Juventus is in that league, I'm pretty sure that 20 million would get this guy. And I've yet to see a better example of a right back that's out there and feasibly available at the moment.
Well, I've never heard of him, but you're going to notice when I read at my suggestions, there's a running theme, and I'm going to give away that theme straight away. My ideal right back, and that's Smith from Bournemouth. You've probably already caught on. The theme is domestic football. I don't want to see. I don't know who your guy is. I can't comment on him, but like Torre was a good player in the Turkish league last season. Nordveit was a good player in the German league last season. Feghouli was a decent player for Valencia in La Liga. I now want to see us just concentrate what we know best. You can send Tony Henry can send his people out wherever, but I get what you're saying about strengthening the 11. I think that's a summer job almost. I think January is almost like a get what you can and patch up job, because January is almost like if you've messed up in the summer previous, and unfortunately we have, and that's why we're going into the market. There's teams out there that won't be going into the market very much this next window because they don't need to. I would be very surprised if Watford and Bournemouth are running around with alarm bells in their head. They won't, because they've had a very good summer transfer. They're sitting pretty in the league. They're thinking, we'll just keep our cash safe until next summer and you can get more value. So I've gone for Smith for Bournemouth. I think he's got I never really knew about him until this season, but whenever I've seen Bournemouth, I think they've got the most underrated fullbacks in the league out of him and Daniels, and he's got everything. I think he's got everything. I've not seen someone shoot so well with his left foot that plays right back in a long time, and I think he gets forward a lot, and he could fit.
So is he left-footed?
No, he's right-footed, but he's really good with his left foot as well. And that's what intrigues me. I really, really like what I see of him. I don't know a lot about him. I'm not an expert, and I've only seen him 6-7 times this season. But what I have seen, I've been impressed every single time. I've been impressed, and I wouldn't mind seeing us going for him. However, you would be looking at a large chunk of your budget, I think, to prize him away from Bournemouth. I mean, we've seen what they got for Richie. We've seen what they want for Wilson. You ain't getting anyone cheap out of Bournemouth. But talking about cheap, I asked you for some backup. Oh, you got 1 minute first. What have you got to say?
Well, no, you did just on what you said. Is funny, actually. He's got 8 names on this list. And the running theme on them is domestic, funny enough. And, I sort of thought about what we might say and what we might discuss, even though we didn't know what you were going to ask me exactly. And a lot of them are, I'm in total agreement with you. And he's the one name that's not. The only thing I'd say about him is I take what you're saying. But, we did all the shows about Gok and Torre and all the rest of it. I was really sceptical about that Turkish league. I think it's... Hugo Rodallega is a sensation, and I think it's a Mickey Mouse league. That. So it's not one of the top leagues. All I'd say about my guy is he's widely regarded to be the best young defender, Italian defender in Italy, and we know what Italian defences are like. So that's I think he'd be less of a risk than some of the other guys. My backup. So what do you want? You want the
bargain. Go for the bargain.
Well, the bargain is going to be Glenn Johnson, because I think he comes in, he sort of ticks the box in terms of the patchwork, which you spoke of. Again, you'd bring Glenn Johnson in if you were going to spend all the money on the striker. So you bring Glenn Johnson in. Maybe I don't really need to say much about him. Everybody knows all about Glenn Johnson. He's going to be infinitely better than anything we have. Not only does he tick the domestic box and knows the league, he knows West Ham. Well, at least he knew West Ham before we moved, I think he'll do a really good job and would be infinitely better than Nordveit Antonio or anyone else that we decide to play at right back. He is just a right back, and he would do a job for 6 months, and I think he'd be happy to come back to East London and do it.
Yeah, just touching your last point there, I've got Glenn Johnson as one of mine. I had two, and I couldn't decide between them, so I'm glad you picked Johnson actually. But just touching your last point, he understands West Ham, and I think that's important. I think over the last few weeks, we feel as fans that the players just don't get the club anymore, and there's a lot of players in that team that just they don't really have the knitting, the grit, the desire. They showed it at Anfield, they've shown it at some games this season, Chelsea at home, etc. But sometimes when the going gets tough, you do look around and you just see dejected bodies across the pitch, and you think, come on, liven up a bit. I think Glenn would do that because he's got a contract in summer at Stoke. He has made some appearances for Stoke. I think he's a first choice right back this season, nailed down, but he's made plenty of appearances. But imagine they'd be happy to get rid of him if they got a small fee for him. And then if he's only got a 6-month contract at Stoke, he's got something to play for when he comes to West Ham. If we only give him a 6-month deal, he needs to earn that other 12 months or whatever. And I think going after an experienced right back and let Sam Bynum have a understudy role, if you like, would be ideal. This is why I'm not too keen on a really, really young right back again, because we tried that with Bynum. There's no point having two really young, good right backs. We need someone with experience. We tried it with Arbeloa. It's just not quite worked. I'm going to go to my loan simply because I struggled to put this guy in between. I wasn't very sure to put him for the loan or the bargain, because I think he could be a bargain, and that's Carl Jenkinson. After his first year here, I said it a million times, I would have happily seen us pay 8-10 million for him. I thought he was our solution at right back. I thought this guy is it. Creswell is it on the left back. This guy's the same as Creswell, but on the right back, he had a horror last season with us. But his first season far outweighs the second season for me, and I think his stock is at an all-time low right now. I think the Arsenal fans don't like him. I think he's struggling over there a little bit. And I just remember Victor Moses. If you remember what I said to you, we were talking about Victor Moses. I said all Victor Moses needs is a home. He needs a manager to put his arm around the player and say, you're here for the next 3-4 years. You're comfortable here. He didn't have that. Moses didn't have that at Liverpool. He didn't have it with us, and he struggled. He's gone to Chelsea, which is his home. Look at him. It's a completely different player. And I think if we could get Jenkinson and throw that deal at him, it might help. But that's where I'm going to push him back to the loan and say, well, a bargain for Jenkinson is probably still 5-6 million. And I can't see our board stumping up that for someone who was awful last season. But who was your loan deal? What do you think of Jenkinson, and who's your loan signing?
Well, I think Jenkinson stitched himself up, because the initial deal for Jenkinson, you've got to bear in mind with Jenkinson is from Essex. So Jenkinson admitted himself that whilst he wasn't a West Ham fan, he did understand West Ham. He grew up with a lot of his friends and family being West Ham fans. So, he knew exactly what it was like. Jenkinson had an opportunity, bearing in mind they had Bellerin coming through, and at the time Debussy's stock was high, and they'd signed young Chambers, who I think is possibly now at Middlesbrough. He was fourth in the pecking order at that point at Arsenal. And there was a chance after he completed that, as you say, excellent, successful first loan spell with us, for him to basically wind down his contract and push for a move to West Ham. And he did a very, very strange thing, which was rather than do that, he signed a new contract with Arsenal. And what that really did, and there were lots of people saying, oh, yeah, but he's an Arsenal fan and all the rest, and I totally understand that, and that's fine. But you can't have it both ways, because what he did in one fell swoop was very much said, well, actually, I do very much see my future at Arsenal, even though he was fourth choice. And I think his mindset, I think he'd also gone to an under-21 championships as well with England that summer. And I think he was quite tired, and he came back and he was awful. He was getting sent off. He was responsible for goals. And he actually scored a couple of goals as well. Then he got a very nasty injury, possibly against Wolves in the Cup, maybe. Last season. But I think his mindset had gone by that point. And I think when you do that, when you very much nail your colours to the mast and say, no, I very much see West Ham as a stepping stone, which is what he was saying. I don't want to sign with you permanently. You're a stepping stone. I'll come back on loan, but my home is with Arsenal. My future was at Arsenal. I think once you do that, it's very hard to then climb down and say, oh, actually, no, it's not worked out for me. All the Arsenal fans hate me. I will come back to you, West Ham. And for me, it's all right, Carl. Thanks very much, mate. You've made your position clear. That's my opinion.
And who's your loan player?
Is somebody already at the club? So, all right, the other one was the loan, whatever. This is the free, but it's left of field. You asked me the three choices. It's something I've been wanting us to do for quite some time. He's showed his commitment to the club recently, and he's done right by us. I think it's time that we do right by him, and everybody will be knowing who I talk about now, and that's Reece Oxford. I would like, if what we can't do is get that top class guy in at right back, and we're going to start scratching around for players and be in a position we're in, I would rather us, because he's a technically gifted player, I would rather us try and give that lad a go at right back. Not a right wing back, by the way, not that sort of position that's been invented by Bilic recently in a formation that, let's be perfectly honest with you, is not working. Let's not let the Hull and Burnley results paper over the cracks. We played very, very poorly, and the opposition have got at us on regular intervals. I would like to see Reece Oxford given a go at right back, and just to get him some game time and to get him some experience in the team, so eventually he can make the move to centre backs, which, even though he's a big boy, he's a tall boy, he's not quite physically robust enough to deal with a hustle and bustle of, crikey, imagine Ibrahimovic or Costa would snap him in too, wouldn't they, really, at the moment? But I think he could learn his trade. He's technically good enough, and he's certainly better at tackling than anybody else who's been playing there this season. What about yourself?
Clever curveball you gave me there. I didn't expect that. If we were going with West Ham players, I'd prefer us to be called Burke and put Burke at right back. He's been playing there for Wigan as well, so it won't be completely new to him. Two players that I've ejected, which you, the viewers, might fancy. I forgot to say, I was meant to say this at the start, actually. Below in the description on YouTube right now is the link to the thread on the forum with this in it. You can go in there and pop your comments in during the show. We want to know who your right back ideal, your bargain, your loan is. Put it in there, because while we've got the live chat on YouTube, it's been run by Charlie. Talk to Charlie, don't leave him alone. It disappears after the video is finished, but on the forum it stays, and people will reply to it and interact with you, etc. So the link is below for that exact thread. It takes a minute to join up, so we'll go pop over there. But the couple of players I've rejected, which you viewers might like, because Keen Prepare at Spurs. Will Spurs sell to us though? It's a sticky point, but he's wasted at Spurs sitting on the bench. And then let's talk about I'll give you the choice. You can take one right back and I'll take the other. Would you like Ivanovic or the Wolves player Iorfa?
Oh, I mean, the Wolves player, I saw him. It's funny enough, I was at the bottom of the chicken run for that one, so I saw him at close quarters. Big, again, tall boy. Just similar build to Oxford, actually. I mean, Ivanovic, crikey. He's got a turning circle of an oil tanker. He's finished, surely. He's absolutely finished. I mean, if we were buying him as a backup to a centre-back, maybe. But as a right-back, he's just not mobile enough. I'm sick of this whole mentality, and it might not even be true. It might just be made-up paper talk. There might be nobody at the club who's actually seriously looking at him. But this is exactly the mindset that West Ham need to get out of. A player who's come to the end of his career, who thinks he's doing us a favour. There was a time when he was scoring some goals for Chelsea at right back. But, I mean, no, crikey, he's... Honestly, you know, your nan's faster than Ivanovic. Just no for me. No.
No brothers. I know for me as well. I'll go for Iorfa. I'm not convinced by him. He's got a big reputation, but 10 million, that's a lot of money for an unproven right back. When I think Sam Byram had a bigger reputation when we signed him than Iorfa does today. And I was reading, before I came on, I decided to go on a Wolves forum. It was very difficult to find a busy Wolves forum, but I found one. And I was kind of looking. A few of them were actually quite sceptical about his defensive positioning and saying that the reason he looks so good with his pace is because he's out of position. He has to bomb it back to try and make up for his mistake, and that's why he looks really fast.
Sol Campbell, that was Sol Campbell's career for me. But yeah, go on.
To be honest, it reminded me of England's current right back, Kyle Walker. Reminded me of him a little bit. If we were going for a right back, though, that's out of contract in the summer, I would like to see us go for Sagna at City. He's out of contract in the summer. He's a little bit past it.
Who?
Sagna. The Arsenal boy, Sagna, however you want to call it.
Oh, he's another old fogey. Yeah, he's another old fogey. But
he's an experienced old fogey.
I'm younger than him, aren't I?
Yeah, but I would like to see him, if it was just a short-term period, get Byram learning. But he's out of contract. He will be cheap. But anyway, let's move on from the right backs. As Gonzo said, though, the last couple there are just paper talks, not necessarily what we want to see. Was comment on the papers. Let's talk about, though, you said, though, you just said that you don't want someone, Carl Jenkinson, who would see West Ham as a stepping stone. Well, let's talk about someone who comments in the press over this last few days might seem like he's trying to use West Ham as a stepping stone. Our talisman, Dimitri Payet. Now, for those who you must have seen, nonetheless, been living under a rock. First of all, he complimented Arsenal's style. Said that when we were 5 or 6-1 down, he didn't even know the score. Said he thought it would be fun to play for Arsenal with that kind of tactics, etc. Yeah, maybe, Dimitri, but they don't win 5-1 every week. They were getting beat 2-1 at Everton, then 2-1 at City. It's not fun. It's not fun playing for that. But and then he comes out and he said about Marseille being an interesting project. He would never close a door on that, etc. What's your thoughts on those comments, first of all? I mean, we don't know if they're true, but it's very illegal to make up quotes from a professional footballer. And these are quite, Sky Sports are using these quotes. You'd imagine that the research has been done and they are pretty legit.
Well, the second batch of quotes were on telly. So unless you would like to think that Sky and the BBC have somebody in their teams that can speak French and have translated it accurately. I can't imagine. Sometimes there's just no smoke without fire. And he mentioned it to the newspaper, and the old cliche that's sort of trotted out was, it's been misquoted, it's been poorly translated. On newspapers, I think you can get away with that. But I think it would be pretty easy, even for you or I, to watch the snippets of that television interview and be able to work out whether or not he was saying, because it would be basically punctuated with words like Arsenal and stuff like that. It'd be very easy just to find out. So I'd imagine he probably did say them. I would imagine they may well have been taken slightly out of context, because he might have basically tried to balance it up at some point in the interview by saying, of course, I love it at West Ham. He might have said a load of complimentary things about West Ham, which were then cut out of the interview, and they only used the stuff that he said about being lovely to play for Arsenal. That being said, he still did say those things, and I don't think that's the sort of thing you should be saying. I certainly don't think you should be saying that sort of thing. We're in the middle of a difficult period. I was going to say relegation scrap, of course, we've moved up to 13th, haven't we? But you certainly shouldn't be saying those things at a time when the club's encountering a little bit of difficulty. And I was very disappointed to hear him, and I love him, and I really do. But every time he does one of these things, says one of these things, just a little bit of it dies for me, if you know what I mean. And there will come a point where you just think, you know what? If somebody does come in and offer big bucks for him, then you've got to start looking at it, but it's a tough one, because he's been involved in half our goals this season, hasn't he? So there you go.
You're right, you can't be misquoted, but what frustrates me is the most is he always seems to be in these positions more than anyone else to give these quotes in the first place. Just get off French television. Or if they ask you about transfers, just refuse to talk about it. Just don't speak about it. I'm almost disappointed to an extent with West Ham, because I thought we were supposed to control these players in terms of media, etc. I mean, you can't get near players these days without someone standing right next to them, listening to what they're saying and interrupting them. So, but it seems that we've got one player at our club who's able to go and have a chat to anyone, and it's really frustrating, because he's adored by our fans. He's the best I've ever seen in a West Ham shirt. I think he's better than Di Canio. But it's so disappointing. It's really, really frustrating to see him saying these things. And I get it. I do kind of get it. When he says it looks like it would be fun to play for Arsenal, it probably does look fun to play for Arsenal. I think it would be fun to play for Arsenal when they're winning 5-1 and the defence you're playing against is just standing still, letting you run through and go. Well, probably would be pretty fun. But you don't need to go say it.
No, you're right. Think it, but don't say it. And particularly don't say it when we've just lost her. No, it was very, very poorly advised. I don't think the media team can control what he says when he goes to France, by the way, which is why he says it when he's in France and not over here. So, yeah, they'd be disappointed as well.
It's frustrating more than anything. But the worst thing is, though, I'm almost coming to expect these things. I mean, the first lot came out. Then when the second lot came out on this via Sky Sports, this one, I just thought, I'm not surprised anymore. I'm genuinely was not surprised to read what Payet said. I just thought, it's got to the point now that, I can't help but think he is fishing for a move to an extent. I hope he's not. And it's good of our boards come out tonight and said he won't be sold. But the thing is, money talks at the end of the day. They're not going to turn down stupid money for him. It's just, you're not fooling anyone. It's good that we've got the intention to keep him, etc. But money speaks for every single player in this world. But I don't know what he's trying to do, because there's only so many clubs could afford him. There's only so many clubs could want him. But PSG are going after Draxler. Even PSG kind of said we don't really want him anymore. He's not in the best form. He's certainly not replicating what he did last season. He's reaching 30. He's at the wrong age. He's tied into a long contract. It's almost like the worst possible scenario for a player who wants out. But we're not saying he does want out. It's just frustrating. But there's nothing more we can really say, because there's been no bids for him. There's a few bits of media which is a bit too bob, a bit ridiculous, coming up with links to say that Man U want him. Maybe they do, but I'll be a bit surprised.
Well, does he strike you as a Jose Mourinho player?
He's complete opposite to what Mourinho would want, and he's the type of player Mourinho tries to get out the club, like Matan and etc. He's the type of player Mourinho just does not like, because he won't.
He looks like a Wenger player. Wenger loves those players. Cazorla, Sanchez, crikey, a little skillful player with a low centre of gravity. He loves them. He can't get enough of them. But yeah, not Mourinho.
No, I mean, I can't even see him go to Arsenal, because Wenger's got that policy that if you're over 30, you only get a 1-year deal. It just happens every year until eventually you're not good enough, out the door you go. And it's a good policy to an extent, but they ain't going to spend 40 million on a 30-year-old and give him a 1-year deal, are they? They might give him a 2 or 3 thing, but it won't be long. But watch this space. I've got a feeling that I'm not going to go too much into Payet, because I've got a feeling we're going to be discussing him in a month's time. When the window opens, 2 weeks' time, I think we're going to be discussing about Dimitri Payet again. But
that was like a bit Alan Partridge the way you said that.
Whatever. But in the middle of the show, kind of coming up the middle of the show, we're ready to talk about the goalkeeper. More rumours for West Ham United, including a Belgian with an afro on his head. And then we've got the striker talk, where I'll be asking Gonzo again, who's your ideal, your loan and your bargain. Before we do that, it's coming up to Christmas, and we'd like a little favour from you. Make sure you're logged into Gmail and hit the subscribe button on our channel here. And also a quick shout out to someone called Gibson. He's in the live chat somewhere. Someone called Gibson. This is for you. At the start, before we opened the show, I texted Charlie. I said, "Are you ready?" He said, "Yeah." And we noticed that someone called Gibson was waiting for the show to start, and Charlie said good evening to him. He said, "Actually, it's 4 o'clock in the morning here, but I'm ready for the show." So that's a bit insane. You probably shouldn't be watching this at 4 in the morning, but thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Let's talk about the keeper scenario. This could be a little quick one, I suppose, but it depends what you think. We've been linked with Begovic a lot for loan, and then Joe Hart's come in, 10 million at the end of the season, and we seem to be the club linked with him the most for the 10 million. Is a keeper what you expect to be on our list of priorities? Would you like to see a new keeper?
No, I can't say that it's... Until it was mentioned, I hadn't really given it any thought. I think we've got 2 decent keepers who, to a certain extent, we've got one who's an excellent shot stopper. We've got another one who's a pretty good shot stopper and a good distributor. So I don't think he's been helped by the defensive strategy and the tactics. So I think it would be quite harsh to lay it all on the keepers. I mean, you're not going to get a couple of keepers that are a lot better than the 2 we've got. So it wouldn't be a priority for me, although I wouldn't turn down... Begovic is a good keeper. I think Begovic is possibly a better all-round keeper than Joe Hart. But Joe Hart is a leader and an organiser of the defence in front of him, is very, very vocal. So I wouldn't turn down the opportunity of Joe Hart. But, Joe Hart was booted out of Man City for not having the best distribution. And possibly Randolph is in the team ahead of Adrian, because Adrian doesn't have very good distribution. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work.
I think Joe Hart's got better distribution than Adrian, though. I've not seen a keeper. One thing I will say I really like about Joe Hart, it's a bit weird. I've not seen a keeper throw the ball so long and accurate as Joe Hart does. There's something about Joe Hart when he gets the ball, he runs the edge of his 18-yarder and throws it over the halfway line to a player's feet. I just think it's amazing. I've not seen a keeper do that in a long, long time. It's not a trait that you see a lot of keepers do. He's better than what we've got currently.
No, he is, but not a lot to the extent that it should be a priority. But I'd take him.
Hart or Begovic, if you had the choice, you've given strengths for them both there, but which one would you pick?
Hart, because he's English and because he's vocal and because he's a leader, and I think we could do with a couple more English lads in the team, particularly because we lost Tompkins.
It's Begovic for me. I think Begovic, like you said, he's a better all-rounder keeper. And the reason we wanted Adrian out of the team was because of his individual errors. And I don't think Joe Hart is exactly Mr. Safe Hands when it comes to individual errors. But like I said, he is better than what we've got. And for 10 million, yeah, I would do it. But I do think there's better options out there. And someone that we're not looking at, though, is Pickford at Sunderland. But if he goes down, I really hope we go all in for Pickford. I'd happily see us spend 15, 20 million on that keeper, get that position sorted for the next decade. But let's talk about some of the other rumours in the press so far. We've still got 2 weeks till the transfer, a week and a bit till the transfer window. But let's talk about the Belgium with the Afro. What's your thoughts on Fellaini being linked with it? It looks like he's away to Italy, but until recently we didn't know and it was up for debate. So what was your thoughts on it?
I think he's a real handful, actually. I think he was excellent at Everton. It's not worked out for him at Man U, but there's a lot of people it's not worked out for at Man U. I'm only saying that because I'm going to say no now, because I just don't think he is what we need. But I mean, as somebody to play as a striker, as a second striker, so they stick him at defensive midfield, which is just not his gig. He can't really tackle very well, to be perfectly honest with you. But he's an absolute menace, I think, for if anyone was going to play him and get him into the box quite a lot. He's actually a pretty decent player, but just not what we need at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same, but I do think would you take him on loan though? If we got him on loan, would you think actually fine, it'll do for the next 6 months? It covers, we've got Faguli, IU, and Czech away to the African nations. Do you think he might help cover that sort of area?
Okay, this sort of brings us back to my first initial point, which was about improving the first team. In the summer, we spent £20 million on a player in IU. I don't think much thought was given to where he was going to play. I think we just bought him. And you look at it now, and he can't get into the team. Now, we could sit here and do a debate and say, oh, he should be playing here or he should be playing in this one. But I think my point still stands. Was he actually purchased and said, here is our centre forward, we were purchasing 20 million, that's where he's going to play? No, he's going to play a little bit up front, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. I think we need clear strategic planning on where players are going to play. And that's why I said at the start about buying one player to improve the team. Say, right back, bang, let's go and let's just do it. Let's sort this problem area out. And I just think there's a lot of muddled thinking. I think if we bought Fellaini, where would he go? I think it'd be another muddled thinking signing. Oh, well, he can play a little bit in midfield if we need him to. And if we need to, I just think it's not what we need to do.
Yeah, I agree. But to defend IU one very quickly, I think you need players that can play here, there, and everywhere sometimes. I do think it's a bit weird, but especially for the bench, to bring someone, a manager to have someone like him on the bench is just ideal. Someone that can play right wing, left wing, behind the striker, up front. Oh, perfect for the bench. With Fellaini, going back to what we said about at the very start of the show, it's kind of patchwork. He would just patch up an area for the next 6 months until we can shift him out and then go strategic and think, right, we need someone that can play at this specific role. You can't play centre mid, you can't play attacking mid. I wouldn't want to sign him permanently, though, I'll put it that way. Wouldn't like to see us waste any of our budget on that. What about the Chelsea man in the middle, Loftus-Cheek? The guy that's been on 30 grand a week since he was 17 years old.
These kids worry me. He was meant to come through. They had a guy not too long ago called Josh McEachran. And he used to be the future, Josh McEachran. And it never really happened to him. And I think they get these big salaries and they come through a big club. I think you've got to be a special kind of player to come through at a big club and really, really push it through. He's been on loan a couple of... He's clearly not quite good enough. And I would rather not... I've seen him play a couple of times. He looks okay. Again, is he going to come in and improve the first team? No. If that guy's going to come in and the board's saying, actually, this is our guy. This guy's better than Obiang, or this guy's better than Noble. Obiang and Noble, you're out. This is our guy. Come in. then absolutely fine. That's not going to happen. It's another guy to sit around on the bench of a comparable level. Is he going to be any better than Fernandez, for instance? Maybe, maybe not. Will he block Fernandez's route into the first team? Quite possibly. No, I just don't like these people that are going to come in and not really do anything.
I'm for Loftus-Cheek. I think that boy's got talent. You say, is he good enough to break through at Chelsea? I think this guy's got the best chance of breaking through at Chelsea in a long time. He looks like he could be the real deal. It's a little bit frustrating that we're going to be taking the big clubs, youngsters, and giving them the match experience they need and sending them back. Going, here's your Loftus-Cheek with 10 Premier League appearances under the belt. And Chelsea say, thank you very much for your help. You know, you've just given our players. But
on loan.
Yeah,
not a chance, mate. Definitely not. No, I mean, if you were going to buy him, fair enough. But no.
He'd be big bucks. You'd be speaking a lot of money to get him off the Chelsea book, I think. I think they've got high expectations for Loftus-Cheek, I think. But one player that's come out today, which I'll be very impressed if you've ever heard of this guy, is an Argentinian playing in Brazil called Prato. Now, the Sun have us linked at a 40 million move. There is no chance.
4-0.
He plays in South America. This has got David Sullivan, loan transfer, smashed all over it.
Geo, 1-4 or 4-0?
1-4.
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
Yeah, either have I, but there's no way David Sullivan is authorising a £14 million transaction for a striker from South America. It's got silly special written all over this. This is the next loan deal. This is the Caleri. Aye. He might be better than Caleri, hopefully, but this deal smells exactly like what we went through in the summer with Caleri. If it does, it might not be true. It is the Sun, but crikey almighty, have we not learned our lesson? If we're going to replace one flop from South America, do we really need to replace him with another South American guy? He is in the Argentinian squad, though. He did get called up very recently to the Argentinian squad. I think he's got a decent goal scoring record. But again, so did Caleri, so did...
The strategy seems to be, and let's make this clear, as you say, it might not even be true. It's just might be something that the Sun made up. But the strategy has a look about if you throw enough shit at something's going to stick. And I don't like that. As I say, it's not clear strategic thinking, and that would worry me again. It would worry me.
We've also got the other guy. Maybe you've heard of this one. He's coming from Zaza's old club, Sassuolo. We've got I think it's pronounced Defrel. Have you ever heard of that fella?
No.
Me neither. He's got a slightly better goal scorer record than Zaza, but he's from the Italian Serie B. Again, have we not learned our lesson? Are we going after Zaza? Aye, and Caleri? Aye. But we'll wait and see. But let's talk about the strikers then. We've been linked with a few others, but the reason I picked out those ones is because I am pretty confident they don't appear on your list of strikers you would like to see at West Ham United. If they have, then you've got me. Fair play. You know more about the South American football than I do. But let's start opposite this time. If you went after... Now, before we do this, those who watched our last show we did on transfers, we did it on strikers. And the whole show, I said, I've got a striker, the forgotten man. And there was a bit of excitement. And I said it was Danny Ings. And everyone went, yes, Danny Ings. 2 days later, he was out for 9 months. So I've got a new striker that I'm going to give the kiss of death to. He's not so much forgotten as Danny Ings. He's not as good as Danny Ings. But someone I wouldn't mind seeing, and I don't think many people will agree with me. So I've got him here. But let's hear your bargain first of all. You're cheapy. You're more likely we're going to sign than anyone else in the January transfer window.
Well, I'm not going to surprise anyone because I said the only guy from overseas was Florenzi in my right back. So it's a guy from over here, and he will be a bargain because his contract is about to expire. He's not the Messiah. He's a very, very naughty boy, and his name is Saido Berahino. Are
you convinced by him?
I'm convinced by his talent. Was I convinced by the 25 million price tag that I think at Tottenham actually initially had the bid accepted, and then West Brom's chairman, whose name escapes me, basically lost his marbles with Daniel leaving, he won't be the first person that Daniel Levy. No one wants to. Surprised Daniel Levy could walk to the shop and get a deal done these days because no one wants to do business with a fella, and rightly so. But at 25 million, no. 6 months, he's going to go for a free in 6 months. 6 million, absolutely. I mean, his talent is beyond question. He's as talented as Defoe. He's the new Defoe in terms of talent. He is a no backlift, bangs the ball, skillful, nimble, low centre of gravity, very, very talented boy. Possibly, we don't know. Might have a screw loose upstairs, but at 6 million in today's market, bearing in mind we almost nearly paid 23 million for Zaza, and well, really, would still cost less than Maiga's transfer fee. I think it'd be worth a go.
Well, you just name dropped Zaza there. That's handy. Do you know last season Zaza scored more than Berahino and played less minutes?
You can do that, and unfortunately, stats will tell a lie. Pulis came in last season. Pulis did not like him. Pulis never, ever plays with that small, diminutive striker. Pulis had one the big fella through the middle, had Brunt basically bulldozing his way through from behind, and was basically bringing Berahino on when the game was either lost or playing him out from wide. Berahino's a striker. So, yeah, your stats would probably tell you that, but I can tell you now, Berahino is a far more talented and natural finisher than Zaza is. So, don't let last season's stats fool you. It was not reflective.
Yeah, possibly, but I think he's got about 20 goals in 100 games or something. He's not got the most prolific record. Granted, he plays for West Brom and he's been playing under anti-football. Everyone that watches this channel for a while knows what I think about Tony Pulis. But he's also got the attitude, and 6 million, he probably is worth a punt. What I will say, actually, this goes back to the summer. I don't want to go into the summers too much, but it looks like we're going to be ripping up the contracts of Toure, Zaza and Clary, possibly rightly so. That comes to about 8.5 million loan fees gone. 8.5 million. What is this at West Ham now? We can just afford to just rip up 8.5 million. So I remember reading something and someone said, "Oh, Caleri's gone back. There was only a £1 million loan fee, so it doesn't really matter." I mean, only, for £1 million, you could go into the Championship or League One and get an 18-year-old that's been banging in the goals for the season. You could take a punt on someone. You could go do what Jamie Vardy cost Leicester City £1 million. There is money. You can't just rip up 8.5 million in loan fees. Go 8.5, away it goes. That 8.5 million could have got Berahino in the summer, and that's what frustrates me. That instead of taking punts on loans and hoping they pay off, how about you actually use it and take punts on permanent signs? If they don't work out, just loan them out. There'll always be clubs worse than us willing to take our duds. Right, we found a club for Maiga eventually. We still got 2 million for Matt Jarvis. We found a club for Freddie Sears, etc. There's still clubs beneath West Ham that if someone comes to us and flops, they will take them and say, "Well, they didn't work at West Ham, but they might work here." We will recoup some of that money. With Zaza, you ain't getting any of that 5 million back. It's gone. I wouldn't be. Tory's gone back to Turkey. I will put money on it. We're paying his wages for the rest of the season because he's out for the season. Why would they take him back? Say, "Yeah, it's all right. We'll pick up his wages." We will be paying his full contract up. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, so I get your punt. I get your punt, and I did ask for a bargain. That could be a bargain. It could be an absolute masterstroke. Actually, it could be a disaster. But you know what? I'd rather find out with Berahino than a 6 million loan fee for some twat from Italy. But let's talk about loans then. I don't actually have any loans. I couldn't think of any. I could not think of a striker I would like to get in on loan that would be realistic. I know who you're away to say. I'm pretty confident I know who you're going to say here.
Oh well, I'll tell you what. Let's do a little thing. All right, I'm gonna hold it up here. So if you get it right, hold on. Where is it? I can't even see the thing. Go on, and you say it.
Sturridge.
On loan?
Yeah.
No, you're wrong. It's Rashford.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. We were trying to keep this realistic.
Rashford.
Nah, not happening.
All right, well, you've killed that. The old cup of tea is going to be
carry on.
now. I'll tell you what.
Listen, you might get a chance. I'm just not convinced that he's going anywhere.
You've come to call me wife for a glass of water. Now a glass of water and a reality check with Geo and Gonzo. Yeah, I mean, why not? He's not really getting played. Mourinho doesn't fancy him. You can clearly see that. And Mourinho's going to make some reinforcements in January. I'm very, very certain about that. Man, you are not going to be happy with hovering around where they are. Mourinho's not really a guy for youth. He never has been. And when they do strengthen, Ibrahimovic has been a sensation, which is a joke, really, because do you remember when we were linked with him last? How many, I mean, not just one or two, how many people were saying, oh, I don't know, he's a bit old for West Ham. West Ham could do better than that. I mean, crikey. Well, we didn't do better than that, and we couldn't, and we haven't, but I think they're going to bring in another striker. I think they're going to be looking to do stuff, and I think he'll move even further down the pecking order. He also has England ambitions, so I think it'd be worth a go. He was the one that stood out when you mentioned loan. Martial has been linked with us. Now, Martial for me is a level above Rashford, I've got to say. I also think, because I think he was at Monaco and then also at PSG, Martial, but he played as a striker. He's a centre forward, but he's been moved to left wing when Van Gaal brought him through. Van Gaal said he bought him for the future. He was quite surprised how well he was. I think that first goal he scored for Man U, he did cut in from the left, almost like a Thierry Henry type of thing. So he's found himself playing on the left. But I think you'll find that his future and his future career, he will be a centre forward. And I think he'll be one of the top centre forwards as well. So I don't think we would get him. I just think he's too good. I think Rashford would have half a chance.
Listen, if either of those were actually up for loan, I'd bite your hand off at either of them, of course. One thing I will say, there was a national paper out there saying we were going for both of them on loan. They've obviously forgot about the Premier League rules, where you're only allowed to loan one player from a Premier League club if you're a Premier League club. So, unlucky national newspaper, denied, your article is wrong. Just to put that out there. But yeah, I couldn't think of a loan, but I went to the lower leagues. I cheated a little bit because I thought, I wonder if I could spin this into a loan just to keep in with our theme. I wonder if I could we could loan this player with an agreed fee at the end of it. But the problem is, because they're coming from the Championship, you ain't getting them on loan unless you're paying $1 million or $2 million plus the $7 million at the end of the season, because these are good Championship strikers, and Championship strikers are now going for $10 million.
Yeah.
You're paying top dollar for a Championship striker these days. The one that everyone will have heard of, it's a bit of a bugger to say, but I know how to say it, but I'll try and get it right. But he's just come back from injury, and it's Antonio's mate, Asabolonga. He's got a phenomenal record down in the Championship. He's fast, he's strong, he's got everything, but his injuries concern me. He's just had a major injury, and I think since then he's had another little injury. But I think he's got 6 goals in 9 games this season, but he's not played much. But when he does, he scores, and he can score. But it would be very interesting. But other one is a Brentford striker, and that's Hogan. He's banging him in. But the last time Brentford had a striker that banged him in was Gray, who then went to Burnley for, I think it was 9 million maybe. So they don't bend over backwards for any club. And Hogan's got, I wrote it down here because I knew I would remember this one. He's got 13 goals this season already. I think we need to take punts in the lower, because I think in the striker category, if Sacco was fit, Sacco, Carroll, Fletcher, and our sensation in the under-23s, Martinez, I think we've got enough firepower to do us till the summer. I do think we've got enough firepower. I think the right back is the main priority. If you get the right back sorted in January, it means Antonio never has to play there again, because you'd have new right back and Byram and Arbeloa if we can't find a new club for him in January. You've got Nordveit as well that can cover there. You've got Czech that can cover there. Oxford can cover there. I think you get rid of Antonio at right back, and he becomes your 5th choice striker almost. You've got IU as well. I think we've got enough striking options. So that's why I think we could take a punt with someone from the lower league who deserves it. Someone who has been scoring and could be hungry. I'm a mad Gonzo.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why you're mad. You're not mad, but you've just got it slightly wrong. And the reason being is, if they are not, what you said is all very admirable, and I'd be totally behind that, I've got to say. But to take that punt, to pay that 10 million or 7 million for a Sombalonga or whatever, they're going to come in and not play. I mean, it took Bilic for everyone to be injured before he played Antonio. Before that, he'd had a substitute appearance against Man City. I mean, I think we played Everton, and I think they hacked up Payet. I think they hacked up Lanzini, and I think they were literally, they're such a, doing a real hatchet job, which was funny because Martinez was meant to be a cultured manager, but anyway, they were knocking us down like flies. And it took that for Bilic to say, all right, I'll give this Antonio bloke a go, and the rest, as they say, is history. What you'd actually find would happen was somebody would come in, they'd be bought for you 8 or 9 million, and they would just be behind Carroll or Sacco or anybody else, and they'd be waiting for their chance, and their chance might not even come. And this is my point, and my point at the very start. We need to buy one player. I know these are our loans and blah, 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 little cheeky ones, but we need to buy one player who is considerably better than whoever we have in that position. So there is no argument. So, well, funny enough, we're going to get to someone in a minute. But you buy that player and you've paid so much for him and he has such a high profile, you dare not play for Sacco ahead of him because clearly he's a lot better than him. And I think that's what you have to do when we buy. I think that's what we need. That's what West Ham need to do.
I just think personally the striker is so much money that I don't think you're going to get someone in January without being completely rinsed, without paying an extra 5-10 million for him just because you're buying in January. I think if you get a punt in and he works somehow, even if he's just playing the under 23s and he's just banging them in, building his confidence, then somebody you can get rid of Sacco. You can even maybe look at Carroll and say, well, you know what, injury prone, you're off skis. Well, I've got this young kid here, we've got Fletcher. Or maybe actually, well, this is going to be really annoying for a lot of people because I'm saying get a championship player. Maybe you can allow Fletcher to go out on loan to Leeds, who really want him. They're playing really good football. They've got a really good manager in Monk. You put him somewhere where he's going to be really well looked after for the next 6 months. They go score goals and championship to come back, which kind of plays my own devil's advocate because I'm saying go get a striker that's scoring in the championship, and now I'm saying put Fletcher in the championship to score goals.
Yeah, I mean, see, I don't think you would. I think if you were playing for Wigan or whatever, Brentford or something like that, and you're scoring goals in the lower leagues, and you come back, and I don't think you want to get put in West Ham's under 23s. I don't think you are. I don't think that is building your confidence. I think that's destroying somebody, actually.
But you were just saying, I think these guys should get a go in the first team, but you're saying they wouldn't. So I was saying, well, maybe
they should, but Martinez should, and I think we'd both agree on that. Bearing in mind, up until recently, not one of our strikers had scored a goal. It's ludicrous that Martinez was not given a chance. But I know you feel this way about Bilic. He's not a great one for youth, and he should have given a little bit more of a chance to a few other players. It has to be said. So, yeah, that would be my worry. I think what you're saying is right. I'd love to see it. I think lots of West Ham fans would love to see it. But I can just still see when it comes to the crunch, funny enough, maybe not even Sacco or Andy Carroll being played up there. This £7 million championship striker is not even getting a sniff because I actually decided to play Antonio up front or something. I just don't think he's getting a chance.
Well, that was my punch anyway. 2 players that are scoring in the championship. I think that's where we need to start looking if we're not getting success in foreign field. I'd rather we took a 7 million championship striker than a 7 million Turkish striker. For example, this 14 million striker from South America, I'd rather someone from the championship. Let's talk about your big main striker checkbook signing, David Sullivan. Get your checkbook out because Gonzo wants.
I stuttered then. I was going to give it a big fan. It's Daniel Sturridge.
Oh, what a shock. So technically I was right.
But not on loan. Not on loan. That you said pay a bit of money above. Pay the money. Pay the money. 25 million, pay it. Done. Get him in.
You think they'll sell him? I mean, Coutinho's out for a long time. Mane's away to the African nations.
I think they're going to need to buy. And I think he's clearly, here's my reasoning, I think he's clearly not in Klopp's plans. He clearly doesn't suit the Klopp system. I think because of the reasons you just said, he needs to buy. And if we could give him 25 million for a player he doesn't fancy, which he can then invest on somebody he might know from the Bundesliga or something, yeah, I do. I think he takes it. And like bearing in mind for all the reasons, all the money we've wasted on the loan fees, this, that and the other, on Carroll's wages to a certain extent. And I know Sturridge has an injury record. That's why you're paying 25 million, not 50 million, because that's the talent you're dealing with. He's maybe Aguero, maybe Sanchez. Is not a lot better than Sturridge in the league, and that guy is good enough. He just plays up front, and there is no doubt with him. Some you will take a punt. You think, oh, Daniel Sturridge wouldn't play 6-7 games for West Ham and not score a goal. He's too good. Daniel Sturridge will score you goals, and that's my big son, and that sort of rounds it off in that sense. Either spend the big money, buy the best right back in another league, buy the best Italian right back, buy the best, or pay. Well, he's not the best, but you know what I mean. Pay big bucks and get a prestige striker. Do it big. That's mine. What's yours?
Well, what I will say about Sturridge, though, he does have a touch of class about him that I haven't seen in a striker at West Ham since Ashton. Maybe even better than Ashton. We'll never know. Ashton could have been better. We'll never know. But he would certainly get fans excited, which is something our previous signings have failed to do from the striker department. I remember when Zaza came, it was almost like everyone was forcing themselves to get excited. Go, yes, Zaza. There was a sense of, just slap yourself on the back of the head and just, get on with it type of thing. But I think this Sturridge, it would be genuine. I think he's a bit like Berahino. He's got that risk factor for a different reason than Berahino, attitude and injury. But he's got the same reward that if you get it right, if you get the player right, oh my word, you just pulled off a bargain. Like you said, if he didn't have the injuries, he'd be 50 million. But because of his injuries, we're getting half price. It's almost like when you go to Tesco and there's a 6-pack of cans with one missing, you get £1 off. You take that 5-pack, we'll give you £1 off. It's better than, it's not quite as, you're not getting as much as a 6-pack, but it's just as good.
Or it's got a dent in it.
Yeah, so basically, Sturridge is a 6-pack of Pepsi with a dent.
But the drink is quality once you open up the ring pull. The ring pull might snap, to be fair, but yeah, it's nice.
But that's the risk you take, isn't it? You saved your 50p. Well, I struggled with this one actually because there's quite a lot of options. I do feel there's a lot of options, but they're all big bucks. They're all big bucks, and I just can't understand. I can't see our owners doing it. I'm sorry, but I just can't see our owners going, how much? Yeah, here you go. Here's a check. They go, how much? Okay, what about a loan deal? How much would that be? Now, how about, so the three I had, well, the first one I cancelled out because he's been scoring recently is Rondon. He's big. He's got a little bit of pace, but a little bit of skill. I think he's better system actually. But this is where it goes back to the Sullivan factor in the summer, where he built the striker up so much that people would still be a little bit disappointed with Rondon. But he started firing in the goals for West Brom. He's their best player, their main player. You ain't getting him unless you're opening that checkbook. He can be the same price as Sturridge, I think. Then there's the other two. One is proven but harder to get is Giroud, which I've written off as well because I think he'd be too hard to get. I don't think he would come to West Ham. In all honesty, I don't think he would fancy it. I think Guti did an interview, and I remember someone said to him, "Why did you all stay at Real Madrid and be on the bench? Because he was a good player, but you were happy." And he said, "It's better to play 30 minutes for Real Madrid than play 90 minutes for someone else." I think that's Giroud's attitude at Arsenal. I'd rather play 10 minutes for Arsenal than 90 minutes for West Ham. I just got a feeling that's what Giroud's kind of attitude would be, a bit like, but if you could get him in and get him with Payet, well, I would be laughing. But the player that I would go for, purely for the exciting punt, and that's Dembele from Celtic. He's a lot of money. He'd be a lot of money, but he's just won today he won that under-21 France Player Award. He was up against serious competition to get that award as well. He's going to be 40, 50 million in a year or two. Don't wait, Mr. Sullivan. Just go get him. If you've got to pay 20 million quid, go get. He's not big a punt as the Championship players. He is a punt, but he's proven he can do it in the Championship. He's proven he can do it in the Scottish League. And I know you'll dismiss the Scottish League, but just remember where Van Dijk came from. Remember where Henrik Larsson came from. These players came down and they've cut their teeth down in the Premier League as well. But this guy can do it. He can do it. But the problem is, I think if you were to put in a bid for him, everyone else would put in a bid for him. I think everyone's just playing the waiting game. You know, if someone was to go, here's 20 million, I think there'd be a lot of clubs going, yeah, here's my 20 million. Here's my, then City or Chelsea would go, here's my 30 million. I think you would start bidding more. But
Well, I like it. I like what you've said there, and I do agree what you say, but I do think that's where we've got an advantage over the others. You only got to look at what's happened to Batshuayi, because as good as he might be, he's not going to lead the line at Chelsea or whoever else. What you've said about paying for him and about him being 50 million in a few years' time, I don't doubt it at all. And he's also had a sample of the Champions League, and he hasn't looked out of place in the Champions League either. So that sort of puts aside what you're saying about the Scottish League, which I know what you mean. But I think what you're asking the club to do in signing him is a big club mentality. And I think that is what we need. And it's the complete polar opposite of what you've been saying with our loan fee for Gherkin Toure and the way we ratcheted a deal for Simone Zaza. I think you're absolutely right. If we want to consider ourselves to be a proper big club or be looking to push towards that next level, and if we have to accept that we can't buy Higuain for 80 million or whatever, then what is the next thing we can do? Okay, well, we're going to buy someone who's going to be as good as Higuain in 3 or 4 years, and we're going to pay the top dollar to secure him. Not the 80 million, but actually we are going to pay 20 to 30 million to secure him. You go out and do it, and that is the big club mentality. And if that's what we want to do, 55,000 stadium and blah, 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 and West Ham, and then I would totally go along with what you say.
Yeah, he's got all the traits. He's got all the characteristics. You know, he's quite tall. He's fast. He's strong. He can score without looking at the goal, if that makes sense. And that's what I like in a striker. Someone that he doesn't need to be like, oh, where's the goal? He knows where it is. He's got the radar in his head. He's got his back to the goal, but he knows before the ball's getting passed back, he knows where the goal is. He knows what he's going to do as soon as he gets the ball, and he's got that. And it would take a lot of balls for us to go get him. It would be a hefty amount of cash. It would be pretty much all our, I'd imagine, at very, very least half our budget for January/summer, if you like. But we've surely got 20 million sitting there, because we were going to be paying it for Zaza if he'd done all these appearances by now. So we must have 20 million sitting there. Just go get him. Just go put in the bid for Dembele. I don't think you'd be paying 40, 50 million for him. You'd be paying a lot for him, at least 20. But remember, West Ham are the club that paid 12 million for Enner Valencia for a punt. You know, this guy's double that price. He's more than worth the punt. I actually got my bargain player. This is the player everyone's going to laugh at, but this is the player I'd actually like at West Ham. I would actually like to see this guy. This is going to sound really bad, but he's happy to play sub. He's happy to be a sub, and that's Joa at Leicester. I liked him at Brighton, and I was actually a bit disappointed when he went to Leicester. I thought, oh, I wouldn't mind. I've seen him at West Ham. But remember, back then, we had Carlton Cole up front and the likes. We didn't have... Well, we did have Carroll and Sacco, but they weren't fit, if you like. So I was thinking, Joa...
As a surprise.
But I would actually really like to see us get Joa. He'll be cheap as chips. He's happy to be sitting on the bench, etc. He's good in the air. He is really, really good at the air. I really like Joa. The last thing I asked you, though, was wild cards. Not a striker, not a right back, but pick another one or two players that you would like to see West Ham go for.
Yeah, I think you phrased it differently. You said wild card and something else.
Yeah, well, I've gone for that as well. I've got two players.
I can't remember. I keep the phone away from the laptop so it don't interfere with the signal. So, yeah. Okay. Right. I've gone for one here. And that's it. You said not right back and not striker, didn't you? Okay, so I've gone for two midfielders. Do you want them both?
Yeah. And why?
Okay, my first one is John Joe Shelvey. Because I think we need a box-to-box midfielder. I think we desperately need that. If you're going to play Obiang or you're going to play Noble, I think we need someone who gets up and down and can score a goal. And John Joe Shelvey, I think he's serving a suspension at the moment, actually. John Joe Shelvey is that box player. He has quite good technique. He's got an excellent engine. He's also got a bit of bite about him, a little bit of fire. And he is a West Ham fan.
Yeah, he's definitely got a bit of fire about him when it comes up against racism.
Well, what's happened?
He's got 5-game ban and a £100,000 fine for racism.
Has he?
Yeah.
Shows what I know. I presume it must be a dirty tackle or something. Oh, well,
Well,
that might
very
make,
well.
oh, that might make things interesting. Well, I don't know. I couldn't possibly comment. Bloody hell, has he really? 5K Ben. Can you say what he said, or can you say what he said?
Say what he said. I don't want a legal thing coming out the doorstep for Amstrad.
All right, fair enough. Was it anti-Scottish?
Don't go fishing. What I will say about Shelby, I quite like him actually, but I've been impressed by his replacement at Swansea, Leroy Ferrer. He's not one of my players, but I've been impressed by him actually. But I can see why you go for Shelby. Who's your second player? Lee Boyer.
Sorry, no,
Luis Suarez.
Who'd you say?
Luis Suarez. Anyone else with a racist background?
No, this guy hasn't got a racist background, but he has actually played for West Ham before.
Okay, continue. Frank
Lampard.
No. You must be joking. It's not with effect. You must be joking. You cannot want Frank Lampard back.
Frank Lampard.
No, he's 37 or something. He's 36 or 37.
He's at a free. He walks in. He bangs in goals. He keeps us safe. He goes away at the end of it.
Banged in goals 5 years ago. You've just dismissed Ivanovic saying, I don't want these old players coming back here.
Yeah, we don't remember to buy Ivanovic. This guy ain't got a club. He could just come straight in.
Yes, but he's an old guy. You just dismissed Ivanovic for being old. And now you're saying you want a 36-year-old man.
Yeah, but Ivanovic is old and fat. You now come back at me. You know what you've got to say now.
Are you being serious?
I am being serious. Frank Lampard. I was going to say Steven Gerrard actually, but he's retired.
You're going to get a 5-game ban in a minute. Well, right. Generally, right. Being serious, you actually want Frank Lampard back at West Ham.
Listen, you asked me last night to name 8 players. I did my serious one. Sorry, you asked me to name 6 players, and you said, and then your text said, and then a lot of wild cards. Someone left the field or someone like that. So that's what I've given you.
Yes, I said a wild card, a fat card. But listen, when we were singing about Frank Lampard after the game at the weekend, it wasn't because we wanted him back.
Oh, wasn't it? You're all singing about Frank Lampard.
We were singing about Frank Lampard on the weekend. It wasn't because we wanted to see him back at West Ham. Right. Well, I'm going to try and
you were singing about Lampard being able to carry all the men around him. Was that not the gist of the song?
No, I think you've misunderstood what we're talking about.
Oh, sorry.
But anyway, I'm going to try and get a little bit of credibility back for the channel. The one player I think he's not underrated in Premier League because everyone rates him, but he's at a club which he's too good for. He's almost like a Payet to an extent, I suppose, and that's Sigurdsson. Oh boy, I'd love to see Sigurdsson at West Ham. Is one of these players that every time a transfer window comes around, you think, I wouldn't mind Sigurdsson. But the reason I would like Sigurdsson, because I know you're going to say, but he plays behind the striker. He's an attacking midfielder. We don't have a space there for him because Lanzini's got that space. Exactly. Get him in Lanzini's space and get Lanzini in no-ball space and get no-ball on Faguli's space, whoever he wants to replace on the bench. I would like to see Lanzini centre midfielder. So in order to get him centre midfielder, you need someone to replace Lanzini. This guy can do it. This guy can take corners. This guy can take set pieces that is not a shot. Well, he can actually take a shot as well, but Payet's hogging that. This guy can actually cross from free kicks as well. This guy's a danger. He's the best set piece taker in the league for all round. He's maybe not the best. He's not as good as Payet at shooting, but he's better at other things, etc. And in terms of corners, he's better. Yes. Now you're being racist. You're on your way for a 5-game
corners. Ban. I didn't say. I said corners. He's better than Payet at corners.
You're mocking my accent. But do you want my wild card?
I would love your wild card. Is it John Terry?
No, it's Memphis Depay. Get him in from Manchester United, please. That boy was nuts when he was in Holland, regarded as the best export since Arjen Robben. Van Gaal ruined him. Mourinho's ignored him. I know people say he plays left wing, which is Payet too, but he can also play up front. The only reason he didn't play up front so much for PSV is because they had De Jong up there. but he can play up front. He's got power. He's got pace. And I think if we're playing with the formation we're playing right now, you need your attacking midfielders to get close to a striker. And he can play that front three, if you like, to the side of the striker, but be a second striker. And that's why I would like to see Memphis here. I think there's an article today going around that they're trying to or they would consider bids of 12 million. 12 million! Well, I would happily take that tomorrow. If he was our biggest signing of the January transfer window and we've got a right back, whether it's a cheapy one or whatever, I'd be happy. If that was the only two players we signed in the January transfer window, I would actually be reasonably happy. I think we need a striker as well, but I'd be reasonably happy with Depay and a right back. But right, Sigurdsson, Depay, I've given my thoughts on Van Lampard. What's yours on Depay and Sigurdsson?
I think that's probably the second best suggestion we've heard all evening, actually. I think it's a masterstroke, actually. He was also free. Depay. I think it was... I don't think Sigurdsson's a wild card. I think he's a good, proven Premier League player. So
yeah, I tried to say that he's not underrated because everyone knows about it. Everyone appreciates how good he is. I just think he's almost like too good for Swansea. With respect to Swansea, there's no shame in it. Just like
you can't insult Swansea and say with respect to Swansea. Just be upfront that you're insulting them.
Because just like I think sometimes Payet was too good. Certainly last year he was too good for us, but those two, I think if you're somehow managed to get those two in, this is going to be unpopular. It would soften the blow if Payet left.
Oh, if Payet left, I'd want to get Shaqiri. I'd want a level above Sigurd's what's it? But Depay, he was a Premier. He's a free kick specialist. We've just not seen it. He was, as you say, he was banging them in Holland. Really good. I think you're right. Everything you said was spot on. Actually, Van Gaal did ruin him, and he is a talent again. He's a bit like that. He's got a bit of the old Berra. Knows about him. He's a bit of... Do you see? He was at the boxing the other night or at the MMA or something. See how he was dressed? Oh, blimey. Do you remember how Alex Song used to turn up in a training gown dressed in all that clobber? Well, he's like two Alex Songs and then a little bit more eccentric. So he can not turn up for training and stuff like that. But like we said about Sturridge, that's why you're paying 12 million for him. And because actually his talent is probably 30, 40 million if you're just going to talent alone. And those guys that give you that mercurial talent and the application, well, they're guys like Sanchez. We can't afford those. West Ham can't get those guys. So actually, it's almost like Di Canio was. Di Canio had all the talent in the world. He was flawed. He couldn't play away from home. He was a bit of a nutter. But we loved him. So it was the next level down. And I think that's where West Ham have got to go. So I think that's a really good shout because he is a very, very talented boy.
He's 22 years old as well.
Yeah.
It's about time we start again. He's almost like quite proven and quite experienced for someone that's 22 years old. I mean, I don't know how old he is, but Sterling 22. I think Sterling's 22.
Probably, yeah.
These guys are really experienced for their age, and crikey almighty, if you could pick two players, if you like, out of all the names we've said this show, it doesn't matter about positions. Obviously, you're going to pick a right back and a other probably, but if you could pick two, who would you pick?
Well, probably two of my ones, to be honest with you, yeah.
Not Van Lampard, but continue.
If I could pick two and we could have both of them, I'd pick my right back, Florenzi, and not to, in fairness, I really liked when you said about Dembele, that really, that struck a chord with me. If we could get Florenzi at right back and Dembele up front, that'd be great. Having said what we've said about domestic and all the rest of it, then, all that aside, I think those two would genuinely excite and we would have a couple of players who in the next year or two would be absolutely world class.
I would go for Dembele and actually Glenn Johnson. It's not because I think Glenn Johnson's amazing. It's just because I think the outlay for what you get is safe. I think it's really safe. And it would just mean that we can move into the summer and have a good chest. We could have a good transfer budget left over for the summer and not blow it all. I don't know who your right back is. So I can't select him, unfortunately. But Dembele would be... It's almost like bordering on unrealistic to an extent, but it's all about, I think when players like him come up, it's all about who moves first and how long do you wait. Because you mentioned Batshuayi, It's like it smacks of that in the summer. Everyone was watching. Palace put in their bid, bang, ours was in, bang, Chelsea's was in. Everyone was just waiting. And I think it's the same with Dembele. Everyone's watching and everyone's waiting. And when one goes, everyone goes. But the problem is not everyone can afford to go in January, whether you don't have room for them, you don't have the money for them, whatever. And I think you could catch people out in January if you go for them.
I think the big thing about Dembele is Dembele has moved from Fulham and he's moved to Celtic. Now he could have gone to Tottenham. Tottenham are interested in everyone, aren't they? But he went there because he knew he was going to play first team football. So clearly there's something about him which makes him think, actually, I'm not going to necessarily move for the biggest bucks or to the most prestigious club. Clearly Celtic is a huge club, but he was going to play there because he was going to be considerably better than everybody else that was there, sort of thing. So I think that may stand us in good stead. So I think if a number of clubs were in, but we were saying, look, come to us. We're a decent sized club now. You will play and you can further your career. I think then we might be in with a chance. But what it would mean when you say everyone puts their bids in, it would mean we would have to show ambition. And bear in mind the ground and the move and the new training ground and the badge and all of that was meant to be about ambition and about us 5 years' time being a Champions League club. Well, we're going to have to start moving towards that if in 5 years we are going to be a Champions League club. It's no good getting to, in 4 years' time, then basically thinking, right, bang, now we can spend 400 million on the squad. No, we're going to have to do it bit by bit. Well, that bit by bit is going to have to start, and it's certainly not going to happen by getting Faguli and Toure and people like that in. The board know it was a terrible transfer window, last transfer window. So I think if we just show a little bit of ambition and actually go and, you said it about Liverpool a few times about Mane. They highlighted him and they went and got him. You know, bang, let's just go. I think if we highlight him and just highlight who we want, go and get them. And if it then comes down to, with the striker, that actually, okay, we're going to go for Dembele, we're going to go for Sturridge. And if we don't get those three, the top 2 or 3 that we've highlighted, what I don't want to do is then think, oh, right, we didn't get them. Okay, well, let's go and get Shane Long on loan, which funny enough probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But you know what I'm saying? I don't then want to go down to our 7th or 8th choice. If you can't do it, then don't bother and actually just go. If you can't get the best striker that your money can buy, then go and get the best right back that your money can buy. If you can't get the best right back that your money can buy, then strengthen another player in the team that you can consider. Go and get a midfielder that is twice as good as any of the midfielders in our squad. Just do something that improves the first team considerably.
I kind of get that point, but what I will say is if you can't get your first choice on third choice striker right back, there's a problem with the negotiations. If you're going after 3 players, you can't get them. It's because you ain't paying the money. It's probably because of that. Chances are it is because of that. And you're right. It is about ambition. You need ambition, but ambition costs money. And that's the problem with this board. No one's got faith. Absolutely no one has faith in this board anymore to open the checkbook. You know, the fact that half our show has been discussing loans. When I talked about the rumours about who's been linked with us, it was loans, and a 14 million South American punt, which it's not going to happen. The Sun might think it is, but me and you know that's probably a loan deal. The Sun have just picked it up wrong. It's loan. And the worst thing is, I know we'll wrap this up soon, but I know you said it was a terrible transfer window. I actually don't think it was that bad. I actually think it was half and half. I think our permanent transfers were good. Masuaku for 6 million, I'm happy with that. Back up for Creswell, sorted. We've got 2 young, fantastic left backs, done. Fernandez for 5.5, looks like a steal, done. Nordveit for 3, I think he'll turn good. Faguli for 3, he's been the biggest disappointment for me, but he's got potential. I still think we'll give him time. You just have to remember Winston Reid, etc. These guys came in, they were rubbish when they first came in. You give them time, a bit of patience, and they can come good. We've got Lanzini signed up. Fletcher looks perfect. The problem was actually the flipping loans. Zaza, Toure, Caleri, the loans were the ones that were made it rubbish, and the lack of 25 goals, 25 million pound striker. That's what made it rubbish. I think the permits were actually really good, and I don't think the window was as bad as some people think, but the window was disappointing as people think. But that's because of our owners and their gobs, and the problem is they wouldn't open their bloody checkbooks, because out of those permits I've just talked about, 2 of them were free. One was 5.5 million, and one was 6 million.
Our biggest problem with the summer transfer window was that you look at every position in our team, not one of those guys came in and improved the first team, and that's really my point. I mean, yes, I understand you can argue that we needed backup for left back, and Masuaku provided that, and so on. I take your arguments, but everyone, you pick your best first team, they're all last season's players, and that is a reflection on the poor transfer window, in my opinion.
But what I will say is that they could become first team players. A year ago, Obiang signed, and we all thought, we were debating getting rid of him in the summer. Now look at him. There's nothing to say that no one we signed last summer, where I don't think it'll be Masuaku, but maybe Norvite or Faguli could end up being first team players at next season. Does it look like it now? No, it doesn't. But did Obiang look like a first team player a year ago? Probably not. So we don't know. But I think the problem is the summer was disappointing. That's what it was. It was disappointing. It still is disappointing. And that's because we would not sign players. We spent more money on loan fees than we did on our highest paid transfer in the summer. And that's what bugs me the most. I know Lanzini was 9 million, but Masuaku was 6, Fernandez was 5.5, but we spent 8.5 million on loan fees. That's what really bugged me. And in this window that we're going into now, it's loan. But if they loan domestically, I think they might have a happy medium, and we need to get over it. But I'll get your final thoughts in a minute. Collate your final thoughts, Gonzo. Just anything.
Just before I do, I just want to say a very, very quick thing. If you look at our thumbnails, we've got a thumbnail going on. The illustrations are done. If you go on Twitter, it's done by Steve at Easy Cartoons. So yeah, just wanted to say that Steve at Easy Cartoons does all the illustrations. If you want to sort of caricature yourself and that sort of thing, then he can mock it up for you. Just contact him on Twitter. I'll put the link underneath.
Yeah, also, I just want to say, a lot of people sent us questions tonight, whether it was on the forum or Twitter. A lot of people sent us questions for the show, and I really appreciate them, but we've never really done a show like that. But we will. We will do a show soon where you can send us the questions, and we will only answer your questions. We won't make the content. You will. So apologies, we haven't been ignoring you tonight. It's just that we decided this would be an hour long. It's an hour and 20 minutes already. And we came up with a transfer theme, and we just want to stick to that theme. But we'll be doing more and more live shows. I've got a plug as well, but that's because this guy's called Freddie. I really apologize if Freddie's watching this. I think his second name is Bonfanti. I seen him on Twitter the other week. He created a book. So I bought one of his books. It was 20 quid. And it arrived today, actually. It's really impressive. It's this book here. It's called Long Live the Berlin. It's just a photo book. He is a season ticket holder in the Bobby Moore Lower, and he used to stand all the time. And he's got his story in the back, actually. It said that he was walking down Green Street and he realised that everything's going to be gone soon. So he started taking his camera to the game, and he's just made a photo book. I'll show you one or two of the photos. He's just made a photo book of some of his pictures from the season. So there's over 200 images here. And the reason I'm doing this is because he's only got 300 followers on Twitter, and he needs a hand to sell them, really.
What's his Twitter handle again?
I don't know, but I'll put a link to the book below. So even if you're not on Twitter, you can find it. I'll put the link in. It's £20. He only got 1,000 made because it's all he could afford to get made, I think. But he's also giving the first 200 sales. He's giving all the money to the Bobby Moore Foundation. He's just a season ticket holder. This isn't his job. It's just a project that he undertook himself. Because I asked him about it because it was quite interesting. The photos are good. The 20 quid, get your hands on that. But it's really good. But Gonzo, final thoughts on the window?
I'm excited. It's so easy to be down and sort of dour about it, but I can't sort of help myself in many respects. I see the transfer deadline day looming as it gets towards the end of it, and I see the opening of the window happening, and you can't help but be filled with hope. And you know what? Your little finishing gambit, which you just said a minute ago, you may well be right that we're being linked with loan players and there's some geezer from South America. You'll probably be right, but I sort of almost can't help myself in the way that I did last time and sort of hope that actually the board have learnt their lessons from last time and we will actually be getting somebody decent. And I'll tell you what's really helped us. If we hadn't have got those results against Burnley and Hull, we wouldn't have had a cat in hell's chance to sign anyone decent. But at least now we're in 13th and we can say, look, we're a mid-table team. We're looking to climb better. You can help us. If we'd have been in a relegation struggle, we would have really struggled to sign some people. I think now we have half a chance of signing people. I'm still hopeful. Despite everything that's happened, I am hopeful that we can do something, and I just hope it happens.
Just to play a quick devil's advocate, I get what you're saying. You just said we were struggling to get someone decent, but because we're 13th, we might now get someone decent. Actually, to play devil's advocate, we needed someone decent, and now we're 13th. They might think we don't need anyone decent because we're mid-table. I worry that we're going to see an article at some point going, Martinez can be the striker. I do worry. He's on form in 23. He deserves his chance, but it does worry. I am looking through my fingers like, just don't do it, because he did it with Caleri. As soon as Caleri, the article came out, David Sullivan, he could be one of our top goal scorers this season. I thought, oh no, I've just got deja vu. But I'm like you. Christmas is coming. I don't like Christmas, but what I do like is what comes after Christmas. That's transfer window. I love the transfer window. I'm a big kid when it comes to transfer window. Not just West Ham, but the Premier League in general. I love seeing Pogba coming to the Premier League. I love everything to do with the transfer window. I can't help it. I know you shouldn't listen to the gossip. I tell myself that as well. I don't care. I do it. I love it. I enjoy it. But me and you'll be back heaps in January discussing it, discussing who West Ham are really with, giving our thoughts. But like I said, thank you for everyone joining us. I want to hear your thoughts. Right back and striker, your ideal / realistic / top of the budget, top of the range, your 15 million, 20 million, 25 million, for right back and striker. Your loan, i.e., in other words, the most likely thing we're going to be doing in January. And also your bargain, the cheap one. There is cheap ones out there. There is bargains out there. Sacco's 3.5 million. They are out there to be had. So who do you want to see? You can comment below and come onto our forum. It's free to join. The link for the thread is below. Gonzo, final words before we bail.
Yeah, just from me, because I'm not sure I'll be doing the Swansea preview. I just want to say a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody from myself who's watched our videos. We really appreciate it. Anybody that even takes the time to click on and listen to us rabbit on about this, that, and the other. Very much appreciated. Have a wicked Christmas, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Well, you might not see Gonzo, but you will see me for the Swansea preview, I'm afraid. But you will also see an absolutely fantastic guest. He is a bit of a cracker, so make sure
you will see me. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, by the way, Gonzo is not the cracker of a guest. That's not what I was talking about. And we've got someone else. He's been on the channel before. You absolutely love him. We absolutely love him. We can't wait to have him back. We've been saving him for special occasions. But make sure you subscribe. It's Christmas. Be kind. The season of giving. Give us a subscription. And we will see you very soon. But check us out Friday for the Swansea preview. Keep your eyes on our social media for the next live show. And fingers crossed we don't get Lampard. Thank you for watching.